Welcome to Allies or Enemies. This time we are looking at Disney Villainous, the 2 to 6 player game designed by the team at Prospero Hall that puts players into the evil shoes of the Disney branded versions of classic villains from the stories of Hans Christian Andersen, J.M. Barrie, Lewis Carroll, and others. In Villainous, you are trying to out-evil your fellow schemers by navigating your nefarious ne'er-do-wells to plunder power, hunt heroes, and be the first to seal your foe's final fate. We're going to dive into all 4 of the expansions and the many villains within, but first, let's take a quick look at how it plays.
In Disney Villainous, the end goals are extremely asymmetric, but the actual gameplay is pretty much the same across all villains. Each turn, players will move their character pawn and take actions depicted on that space. Actions are all optional and can be taken in any order. These include gaining power, fighting heroes, discarding cards, playing cards from your hand, moving allies, playing fate cards from opponents' decks, and activating abilities. Playing cards into your own realm usually costs power. Playing fate cards from other realms usually results in covering up actions and generally causing trouble. Each evil objective is laid out on the player's realm and in a little personal tip booklet, and all of them are specific to the villains. But once any villain actually completes their scheme, the game is over.
While the box says up to 6 players, Villainous can get a bit in its own way at higher player counts. A big part of the game is interrupting others around the table, which will always be a little bit frustrating by design. But some of the end goals are tricky enough already, without 5 other villains throwing wrenches into your works. This is particularly true when your scheme can't be completed until the start of your next turn, giving everyone a shot to stop you. We have almost exclusively played at 2, and that, or perhaps 3, may well be the sweet spot. With smaller counts, you have enough room to make even the tricky plans possible, as the fate cards will come a little bit less frequently. Plus, since turns can take some planning, smaller counts keep things moving at a decent pace, while higher counts have the potential to become a little bit more of a marathon. This is a very take-that-heavy game, so player count will partly come down to how much you like to dish out versus how much you are happy to take. But enough about the overall. Let's take a look at the actual villains and run through all 5 sets and 18 characters, starting from the base game.
The biggest Disney Villainous box to date provides 6 cool characters and a giant power cauldron. Even after all the many additions, the original foray into fiendishness still has some of the best baddies in the game. Prince John robs from the poor to keep for the rich as he tries to build a pile of 20 power while throwing merry men in jail and sicking the mean old sheriff on everyone. The Red Queen can beat you quicker than you can paint a white rose red as she orders her card guards to turn themselves into wickets and then takes a shot for an immediate win. Rounding out the heavy hitters is Maleficent, who is a constant threat and can end things in a hurry if she gets her curse cards and trusty Raven out quickly. On the slow but steady side are Captain Hook, who needs to lure Peter to the Jolly Roger and make him walk the plank, Jafar, who needs to capture the genie in the lamp, and Ursula, who wants to get the crown and trident to her lair. All 3 depend on getting the right cards, which usually takes a good chunk of the deck, and all 3 can find themselves digging back through that deck after a well-placed fate card. Ursula especially. And while the balance isn't perfect, we have managed to win with all of these characters except for the Sea Witch, and the challenges are generally fun.
The first expansion, Wicked to the Core, which like all of the expansions is actually a fully playable game on its own, added the evil queen from Snow White, who needs to find ingredients and brew poison for her apples, Hades, who needs to bring his titans to Mount Olympus, and Dr. Facilier, who wants to rule New Orleans through a kind of card game within the game. This pack raises the inventiveness a little bit, especially with Facilier and the evil queen, who are both fun to play and two of the strongest villains in the game. Facilier in particular can wrap things up in a hurry with the right hand, which is arguably perfectly in character. Hades, however, is a bit of a tougher story, as the Titans slog their way to Olympus, often being trapped or otherwise hampered by that pesky Zeus and his upstart son. This first new box is still one of the best.
Evil Comes Prepared adds Scar, Yzma, and the dastardly Ratigan. Scar just can't wait to be king as he slowly builds a succession pile, which is a nice way to say pile of the dead, and clearing the line until he wears the crown. If you can win with Ratigan quickly by replacing the queen with a lifelike robot decoy, things are elementary, but if your opponent foils that initial plan, the game is afoot as you have to match wits with Basil, which is actually still not too hard. Meanwhile, Yzma needs to command Kronk to find and defeat Kuzco before Kronk finds his conscience and Kuzco finds his groove. All three are a fun spin on the game and all are worthy evildoers with a few tricks in their decks. Although if you want to win quick and dirty, it is hard to beat Ratigan.
Perfectly Wretched again adds some twist to the game. First is the cover character, Cruella de Vil, and if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. Cruella enlists the help of her two trusty hench friends as she tries to collect adorable puppies to turn into a coat. Her playstyle is fun as she first needs to find and then catch 99 Dalmatians. Pete, who is from way back in the Steamboat Willie days, is exceptionally interesting, with great art and 4 or 5 changeable goals, but he is a challenge to win with. And while Mother Gothel is not as inventive as the others, as she needs to build Rapunzel's trust, sometimes it is okay to keep the play style close to home.
The latest expansion is Despicable Plots, and it is a challenging but solid addition. The cover boy is Gaston, and while no one fights like him or douses lights like him, they can make it super hard for him to remove all 8 obstacles. He's fun, but winning with him can be harder than eating 5 dozen eggs. The addition of the Horned King was a pleasant surprise, as we are big fans of the underrated Black Cauldron, and he doesn't disappoint, as he battles Welshmen and raises the undead. And finally, we have Lady Tremaine, who just wants the best for the majority of her 3 daughters, and has a fairly straightforward style that would have been a perfect fit for the original box.
No matter which box you go for, the production is a pretty solid bang for your buck. The coins and cards are maybe a smidge lower quality, but the player boards are great and all have their own villain booklet. The card art is all top-notch, as you would imagine, and the villain pawns are almost worth the price of admission on their own. Look at those! Surely someone just has these on a display shelf. And despite a bit of iffy balance, the team at Prospero Hall did a good job of capturing the heart of each of these baddies, in both looks and mechanics.
This game is not going to be for everyone. As we said earlier, there is a lot of take that. The whole game is kind of an exercise in frustration by design, as you're trying to complete your own evil scheme while at the same time stopping everyone else from completing theirs. That isn't to say it's not fun. It is. After all, villains are supposed to be gleefully mean. It's just that you need to know what it is that you're getting into. Also, the license could be very hit or very miss. We're kind of suckers for a foxy Robin Hood, but some folks will prefer more classic takes on the classics. That said, if you did grow up with a fondness for these cartoons, you don't mind a good chunk of take that, and you want a fairly simple but wonderfully asymmetric game, Disney Villainous is definitely worth a try. And that is it. If you have played Villainous, who are your faves? Also, please do take a second to like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you all next time for another game.